Guys, there's some big news. I've just read an article. And I wanted to get your guys' take on it. Eddie Reynoso has come out and said that the only way the Canelo Golovkin trilogy happens is if Gennady Golovkin moves up to 168 pounds. I don't know what you guys make of that. I don't know what you guys make of Eddie Reynoso saying what he's saying there. The only way Canelo Alvarez will fight Gennady Golovkin is if he moves up to 168 pounds. This is according to Eddie Reynoso. I think that's fairly obvious. But Golovkin has never moved up. Golovkin has always been reluctant to move up. And I wonder why, because I really criticize Golovkin for not moving up. Because I think there was a possibility of an Andre Ward fight. And Andre Ward was craving for a fight with Golovkin. He really wanted to fight Golovkin. And Golovkin didn't want that fight. Golovkin, you know, as Andre Ward said, Little G, started calling him Little G, and you know, he started disliking Triple G a little bit. Dislike, strong word, but he started, because basically Andre Ward thought that Triple G was basically saying one thing in the media, but basically Andre Ward wanted Golovkin to come out and say he doesn't want to move to 168 to fight him. Because Andre Ward was like, well, he was willing to go to 168 for Froch, but then he wasn't willing to fight him, and he was asking for a catch weight and all of that nonsense. But will Triple G be willing to go and fight Canelo at 168? I'd like to think so. Because surely Triple G's been making this weight for a very long time. Surely it's hard for him. I don't think he's a very big middleweight, to be honest with you. I don't think Golovkin's a big middleweight. So I think Golovkin makes the weight pretty comfortably, but I don't understand why he never moved up. Why didn't Golovkin ever move up to 168 pounds? He could have easily had a successful career at 168 pounds as well. The guy was a beast. He was a monster. Why didn't he move up to 168 pounds? Why did Gennady Golovkin not move up? It's a mystery. I want you guys to leave your thoughts in the comment section. Why didn't Gennady Golovkin move up to 168 pounds? And will he move up to 168 pounds? I think he will now, because let's be honest, Gennady Golovkin, although he's a fighter, he's a fighting man, and I love Golovkin. I was a massive fan of Golovkin. He is in it now for also the big paydays as well. And Canelo Alvarez is a big payday. There's no way Golovkin could turn down a massive payday, against Canelo Alvarez. He just couldn't, in my opinion. So I think there's no way Golovkin would turn down that opportunity. I just don't think there's any way that Golovkin would turn down an opportunity to fight Canelo, even if it means going up to 168. I never really understood why he wouldn't go up to, because when you look at some of the fighters that was at 168, I would favor him to have beaten everybody at 168 pounds bar Andre Ward. He would have beaten everybody. He would have beaten guys like James DeGale, Carl Froch, George Groves. He would have beaten those guys comfortably, in my opinion. So I don't understand why he was so worried about moving up to 168 pounds. It didn't make any sense. Why didn't Gennady Golovkin move up to 168 pounds? I think he hurt his career as well, because his prime years got wasted by him waiting around for Canelo. And then when he did get the Canelo fight, I still think he was in his prime, so to speak, but he was 35. He wasn't like he was young when he fought Canelo. But the point I'm trying to make is, rather than waiting for the Canelo fight, Andre Ward was calling him out. Why didn't he go up and fight Andre Ward? I don't understand. Why didn't Golovkin go up and fight Andre Ward? Look at Canelo. Look, he's moved up weight classes. Why didn't Golovkin? Golovkin hurt his legacy, in my opinion, because he didn't really get the big fights. Everyone knows that Golovkin was a great fighter, but he didn't really get the big fights. But there was a big fight with Andre Ward, and Andre Ward was also, like Golovkin, avoided. He didn't really have a lot of competition in his division, so he was screaming out for a big name, big fight. And Golovkin didn't come to see Andre Ward. And the only thing I can think of is the fact that Golovkin wasn't confident that he'd have beaten Andre Ward. That's the only thing I can think, because he didn't fight him. And Andre Ward wanted that fight. Andre Ward wanted to fight Golovkin. So I feel like Golovkin hurt his legacy a little bit by not moving up to 168 pounds. But will he move up now? I think he would do. I think with what would be on stake, the fact that he knows that it'd be a massive payday fighting Canelo, I think he'd definitely move up for a fight with Canelo Alvarez. I think he would definitely take that now. So I personally think that it would make a lot of business sense. I think he wants to fight Canelo because he feels that he's been hard done by. He feels that he won those fights and he got robbed. So Gennady Golovkin has got he's a bit, I won't say bitter, because I did think he won the first fight, but there's definitely got to be some kind of bitterness there where he feels hard done by. He feels that I've been hard done here. I've been treated unfairly. I've been mistreated. Anyone would, because he feels that he beat Canelo when he didn't get the decision. So personally, I think if the opportunity presents himself for Golovkin to move up and fight Saul, I think he's got to take it. I do. I think he's got to take it without question. I don't think there should be any hesitation. He should move up if the opportunity presents itself, which I'm not sure, because I personally think Canelo will fight Charlo. But if the opportunity does present himself to move up and fight at 168 pounds against Canelo, I just don't see how he can't. He has to take it. The only thing that doesn't make sense to me is Eddie Hearn has offered him Bivol and Golovkin, but he's offered him Bivol first. So I don't understand how that works. Because if he's gonna fight, surely you would offer Golovkin first and then Bivol. You wouldn't offer Bivol then Golovkin. But it's clearly stated that Eddie Hearn has offered him Bivol first. But Bivol's at 175 pounds. Why is Canelo gonna fight unless Golovkin's gonna move to 175 pounds? Why would Canelo fight Bivol then Golovkin? It just doesn't make sense. Should be the other way around. But I don't know whether Canelo's gonna. I don't know whether Canelo's gonna take up that offer. He may do. He may not. We'll have to wait and see whether whether Golovkin decides to take that fight if it's offered to him. Will Canelo take that offer from Eddie Hearn and Matchroom? I'm not convinced because I think he may want to take the Charlo route. But then you never know. You never know, because he might fight Charlo. Then he might say, okay, give me Golovkin in Mexico. We just don't know what Canelo decides to do. That would be a massive fight in Mexico, Canelo v Golovkin, because Golovkin's liked in Mexico as well. So I personally think that would be a monster fight in Mexico. Monster. But let's see what Golovkin decides. Let's see if Golovkin is willing to move up to 168. I'd have to think that Golovkin would jump at 168 to fight Canelo in a heartbeat. I can't see why he wouldn't. I can't see why Golovkin wouldn't want to move up and fight Canelo Alvarez. It wouldn't make sense for him not to, right? I think that the money would be great. It would be an opportunity for him to avenge that loss that he's always wanted to. So yeah, I just think it makes perfect sense for him to fight Canelo Alvarez at 168. But again, I don't know what Golovkin's plans are. Golovkin has been very inactive. He's getting older, and it makes you wonder, what has Golovkin got left? What's gonna be left when we see Golovkin in the ring? Is he completely diminished? I don't think so. I think Golovkin still have quite a bit left, and I still think that if Golovkin prepares well, which he always does, I think he can beat majority of the middleweights. I think he beats probably all of them. And that just shows how great Golovkin is. But I still don't understand why Gennady Golovkin in his prime years, when he wasn't getting the big fights with your Miguel Cottos, with your Canelo Alvarez's, the big fights that he was craving, a lot of these guys were avoiding Gennady Golovkin. Why didn't Gennady Golovkin move up to 168? It didn't make sense. I feel like Gennady Golovkin wasted a lot of his career waiting for Canelo Alvarez, when I think he should have probably made the jump and looked to fight at 168 against your Andre Wards, or maybe even moved up to fight Sergey Kovalev. You know, moved up to 168. Because look, that's what Canelo's done. Canelo's really smaller than Golovkin. When you think about it, Golovkin, when they fought, Golovkin looked bigger to me. And Golovkin's not moved up, but Canelo has. So, for me, I think Golovkin's hurt his legacy. I do. I think if Golovkin had moved up, and I'm not saying, look, he would have been an underdog against Ward, but there's a chance he could have beaten Ward. Ward never faced, in my opinion, a pressure fighter as good as Golovkin. You know, I know he fought Kovalev, but Kovalev was more of a boxer. He wasn't really a pressure fighter. And it just staggered me that Golovkin never moved up. Like, he stayed at one weight class his whole career. When he could have moved up and dominated. He could have moved up and done what he did at middleweight, at super middleweight. The only real threat there for him was Andre Ward. Like, I think we'd all agree that Golovkin would beat Carl Froch. I think Golovkin would beat James DeGale and Groves and Darrell and Pascal and all of those guys. I would favor Golovkin to win those fights. So why didn't he? Why didn't he? What was the reason behind Golovkin not moving up? Was it the fact that he was just so, you know, he was so obsessed about Canelo Alvarez that he wanted to fight Canelo so much that he didn't move up because he knew that if he moves up, then the Canelo fight might not happen? But look how things have worked out. Canelo ended up moving up to 168 and he became undisputed there, and then he went up and moved up to 175. That could have been Golovkin. That honestly could have been Golovkin. If Golovkin, that honestly, if when Andre Ward moved up, right, Golovkin could have gone up to super middleweight, and I think it would have been easier for him to become an undisputed champion at that weight class. But instead, Golovkin decided to stay in a division where he wasn't getting the fights. There wasn't really no big name fighters. When he could have moved up to 168 and potentially have fought Andre Ward, because Andre Ward was a big fight out there for him and he wanted to fight him. Andre Ward wanted to fight Golovkin. I never really understand why Golovkin didn't, you know, look to fight Andre Ward. It staggers me. In the end, he got the Canelo fight, so it worked out. But his legacy was hurt because when you look down Golovkin's resume, it's pretty thin. It's pretty thin. When you look at some of the fighters that he's beat, there's not a lot there. There's not a lot there. Yeah, he's got a lot of title defenses, and we all know as boxing fans that Golovkin was an unbelievable talent, an unbelievable fighter. But there's not a lot there on his resume, unfortunately. His resume is quite thin in terms of elite level opponents. So yeah, it's sad because I think Golovkin was a phenomenal talent. I just think he should have moved up. You know, and even after the Canelo fights, he could have moved up, but he still didn't. He stuck at middleweight, which was bizarre. But leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. What do you guys make of that? Leave your thoughts. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.